Hi guys, and welcome back to class. Today we're going to look at the same painting that we discussed yesterday, but this time we're going to ask ourselves, to consider what catches your attention. What do you see happening in the painting? And then we're going to jot down some of those observations inside of our discussion board. For this lesson, our focusing question is, how did the conditions of the front affect soldiers? But also, we're looking at seeing what's happening in Chapter 6, and we're organizing those events in a sequential order. Our craft is, how does using transitions help to create cohesion? So looking at our focusing question, how did the conditions on the front affect the soldiers? I want you to think about the observations that you made about the painting and consider how they relate to this question. In this lesson, we are going to focus on the novel's depictions of the text. How do they describe what's happening? But first, let's go ahead and experiment with our transitions. On handout 14A, you are going to see a transition experiment. You're going to read the paragraph below, and using the transition key that you see, you're going to decide which transition goes in each numbered box or numbered line, and then share your paragraph with a partner, maybe a parent or relative, and remember to refer to your handout 13A for different types of transitions. So in our last lesson, when we looked at handout 13A, they gave us an example of what types of words could be used if we were trying to provide an example, or if we were trying to cause an effect, or if we were trying to show the significance, or if we were trying to conclude or summarize a transition. Look and use that handout to help you finish this paragraph with completed transitions. Then we want to update our status report. By now we should have read up to Chapter 4, and we're going to be reading Chapter 5 today. So in your status reports, you should be recording those characteristics of characters that you have been engaging with in the text, any new incidences or things that have happened to the characters and how they have responded. Then record this new vocabulary. We have minute, veracity, and unbearable. Looking at your annotations from last night's homework, which of your annotations provides descriptive and sensory language that most effectively describes what it's like to be on the front? Then we're going to create a timeline of events that take place in Chapter 6, collecting evidence that describes the conditions or the fronts during these incidences and how the men experience the conditions on the front during those incidences. There will also be a series of questions inside of Schoology. What is the overall effect of conditions on the front of men? And how does the picture Paul describes compare to his descriptions of conditions on the front? What's the effect of including this picture in this chapter? Let's take a look at handout 14B, where we're going to be looking at descriptive and sensory details. So here you're going to review pages 99 through 123 and the article Fighting from the Trenches. We've read this before. And you're going to record 5 most significant descriptive and sensory details about the conditions of the front from each of the texts. So basically what you're doing is you're going inside of Chapter 6 of All Quiet on the Western Front, and you're going to see if you can find a line that shows descriptive and sensory details about how the front is. And you're going to write that line here. And then answer the 2 questions at the bottom. Then I want you to compose a poem. This can be a free verse poem or any type of form. This is not a found materials. It doesn't have to be an ode. It can be any type of poem where you are depicting the conditions on the front using the details that you've identified in handout 14B. So that means that you're going to have to be very detailed, and you're going to have a solid use of descriptive and sensory language in order to describe what's going on in the front in those conditions. How do details in the novel and the article differ? So this, you would need to look at your handout and see what you've written for both sides and see how those informations differ. And then write a list of adjectives describing life on the front. This is going to help you create your poem. To end this lesson, you should be able to write me 7 to 10 sentences in detail of what's happening in Chapter 6. Make sure that you utilize your timeline that you've created so that you are going in sequential order of the text. Then what is one key detail from your poem that best describes the soldier's experiences in this portion of Chapter 6? For homework, I want you guys to read pages 123 to 136 of All Quiet on the Western Front, annotate for incidences in lack of responses or emotional responses of the second company, and continue your fluency homework. Moving on, let's look at verb mood. So we talked about this in Module 1. Remember, we talked about imperative, indicative, and interrogative. I will post a video inside of Schoology as a reminder of what these are. So I want you guys to imagine that Paul, our narrator, also confronts Himmelstoss with a partner or with a parent or a sibling. Create 3 remarks that Paul might have made to Himmelstoss. What might he have said to him during an incident that has taken place between Paul and Himmelstoss? I've written these sentence stems here to help you. So for our imperative mood, it says don't. That means you're trying to tell someone something. Indicative means I think. You're basically giving a statement. And interrogative means you're asking a question. Why? Then I want you to start to begin to explore appropriate and inappropriate shifts in verb mood. Remember that appropriate means fitting the requirements of a situation, whereas if it's inappropriate, it means not suitable or fitting. To determine what is appropriate or inappropriate, you must consider the purpose of the message, who you're speaking to, like your audience, and your context, or what is it about. So looking at the last paragraph on page 66 of All Quiet on the Western Front, I want you to read the last paragraph and identify the shift in the verb mood. Where does it switch from indicative to interrogative, or from interrogative to imperative? Is this shift in the verb mood appropriate or inappropriate? Why or why not? What verb moods do you see here? Is the shift appropriate or inappropriate? This is the passage. Examine the passage, see if you can find the verb moods, and answer the questions that arise here. All right, that's going to be it for today. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Office hours are every day between 11:22 to 12:06 p.m. The link is inside of Schoology. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.